Everybody, welcome back. Craig Schaup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George is here. We're talking movies that are coming out in theaters, and we have maybe, I think, something for everybody this weekend. How are you doing, George?
Oh, I'm hunky dory.
That's great to hear. We know that you've been busy with the movies this week as well, and we appreciate you doing that. First off is Hoppers. This is the spring release here for Disney Pixar. Obviously, Pixar has a 31-year experience of producing some of the best animated features we have ever seen. They've had some lulls over the last, decade or so, but then they've also seemed to kind of rebound a little bit. I know both you and I liked Elio last year, although no one really saw it, unfortunately. Before that, Inside Out 2 was another winner. So seems like they're getting back on track, and I'm hoping that they're getting back on track with Hoppers. But what say you about the new animated feature?
Pixar is officially undergoing a renaissance. It's a pity it started with a sequel, but I'll take it. Hoppers is probably the funnest and borderline smartest thing they've done in a while.
Good.
I mean, Inside Out 2 was pretty smart, but this is an original film.
Yeah.
Very smart and emotionally moving. Tells a story of Mabel, a 19-year-old whose grandmother taught her how to commune with nature to calm her down. Mm. If I had to guess, I'd say Mabel is probably on the spectrum. It's probably neurodivergent. That's the best way. And she had troubles in school. She lets her passions dictate her actions. And one of those passions is trying to take care of animals. While she was in school, she tried, as a preteen, she tried freeing all the animals held in assorted classrooms. Got her in trouble. Her grandmother taught her how to commune with nature in this area in their hometown of Beaverton, where they lived. And you fast forward 7 years, and protecting nature and animals is still her passion, except she has to deal with the mayor. She calls him Mayor Jerry, who's pushing a highway through the sacred area where her and her grandmother used to basically meditate. That leads her to seek help from a professor at her community college. And unbeknownst to her, at one point, the professor is conducting experiments into that area to try to learn why the animals have left. And the fact that the animals are no longer there gives the mayor the ability to push his highway through. The experiment involves robots and moving her consciousness into the robots to explore the forest. Mm-hmm. Mabel learns of this technology. I won't say anything other than she basically hijacks it. A beaver robot goes into the forest to meet the beaver and the beavers and try to convince them to return to this part of this land she wants to save. Comes to learn that there's some shenanigans going on, yada, yada, yada. She is forced to deal with her and the king beaver. Yeah, there's a king beaver. Are forced to deal with an animal council, insects, reptiles, mammals, amphibians, and best way to put it, hijinks ensue. But the thing is, this film is directed by Daniel Chong, who's a relative newcomer to this. Yeah. And as far as folding features,
sure.
And it's one of the best things Pixar's done in ages. There are some moments with her grandmother that are as emotionally impactful as what you probably saw in Up. And it takes a lot for me to make that kind of comparison.
Wow, yeah.
And he really has a handle on what he wants to do with the film subject matter, and it runs the gamut from incredibly touching to incredibly hilarious, action-filled thought provoking, everything you want from and expect from a Pixar film.
Right.
And it's got a nice cast at a secondary level. Um, Meryl Streep as the insect queen really stands out. She's hilarious. Ego Nwodim from The Bear provides a voice. There are a couple others, and it's really, really worth your time. It's very much so.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear that. I mean, I think I've liked a lot of the Pixar fare a little bit more than you have over the last several years. I mean, obviously, we both love Soul. Luca, you were more lukewarm on it than I was, although I was pretty lukewarm on it. Turning Red, I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed Lightyear as well. Liked Elemental, didn't love it as kind of a forgettable but beautiful looking movie. And then, of course, Inside Out 2 and Elio have been, pretty good standouts from the last, couple of years releases. And of course, they have this new original movie that comes out a few months here before Toy Story 5 is set to release, which I'm sure they did that by design, just in case this movie didn't quite make the money that they would hope for. Although I feel like this movie's
going to make money.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to. It's not going to be like last year. I just, they didn't know how to market Elio, and I think this year you've got animals, cuteness, and I think you're going to draw a lot of families into it.
They didn't know. I don't think they even marketed it, Elio. It's not a matter of knowing. One thing I've learned over the years working with Disney, they know how to market anything. Mm-hmm. They marketed a film about a young girl's first menstrual cycle, for God's sake. You can market Elio.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying that one. They abandoned Elio. And
they did. Yeah, they did.
I basically told Mark Mothersbaugh, actor native, lead singer and founder of Devo, who scored this film, that. I told him they abandoned Elio.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that maybe they're back on track here. And obviously they have some, big sequels coming up here with Toy Story 5, Incredibles 3, Coco 2 is in the works as well. So, they're still going to scratch that box office itch with some of the sequels, but it's nice to see that they're trying to be a little bit more creative and individual, properties instead of just, taking these sequels or threequels or prequels and trying to, run them to the box office and make their big money. So I think Hoppers, looks like it's going to do pretty well. I'm excited to see it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. What was your final grade for it?
I'm pretty sure I gave it an A-.
Okay.
You have to double check. Definitely a B+.
Okay, fantastic. Well, one movie that I don't think the family's going to be rushing out to this weekend is The Bride. This was a delayed movie after, last year, of course, we had Frankenstein. I know a movie that you thoroughly enjoyed from Guillermo del Toro, which has scored several Oscar nominations. And I think the prevailing thought was, well, you don't really want to double up on, Frankenstein lore in the same season. And, this fall release was pushed to the spring. Maggie Gyllenhaal, though, is writing and directing. She hasn't acted in 6 years, which I looked that up and I kind of found that astonishing that, one of the better actresses out there has not been on screen for that long, but she's kind of turned into the filmmaking, and I think, she scored an Oscar nomination for a screenplay for The Lost Daughter. And here she's back now behind the camera, writing and directing with The Bride. And of course, as you would expect, when actors turn directors, they're usually able to coax a pretty darn good cast out there. Here, it's no different. You've got Christian Bale, Jake Gyllenhaal, of course, her brother, Jessie Buckley, who is now the odds-on favorite for an Oscar victory for Hamnet, which, striking while the iron's hot for both her and Gyllenhaal in this movie. So there's a lot to like, but is there a lot to like about The Bride?
You're going to either love this movie or hate it. Now, okay. It's funny I say that for one reason. I came down squarely in the middle because my review leans negative.
Okay.
I gave it a C. It's bold, it's audacious, and I also wrote that it's jagged and disjointed. it lacks focus, and you could tell what she's trying to do. I mean, it's set in the 1930s, more than 100 years about after the 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 advent of Frankenstein, and it focuses on what you'd expect given the title, The Bride. Now, Frankenstein's monster shows up in Chicago, um, tracks down a doctor who's an expert in reinvigoration, like his master was,
Right.
and he wants a bride. That's where Jesse Buckley's character comes in. She is a, I don't want to call her a tart. I mean, she liked having a good time, and everybody in life is entitled to want to have a good time, however they see fit.
Yeah.
And in 1930s Chicago, you get a certain reputation. She was hanging out with mobsters and had a tendency to spill secrets.
Right.
Courtesy, and this is a really what makes it so bold and audacious. She's spilling secrets, courtesy of being possessed by the ghost of Mary Shelley.
Okay.
So, which makes it extremely interesting because there's this duel going here between her character, whose name is Ida, and the ghost of Mary Shelley. And while she's flapping her tongue, that eventually ends up getting her killed,
Mm-hmm.
giving the doctor, played by Annette Bening, and Christian Bale, Frankenstein, the opportunity to dig her up as a fresh corpse. They reinvigorate her, reanimate her, whatever, and the film becomes this journey and road trip about her developing her sense of identity.
Mm-hmm.
It explores the issue of misogyny. It firmly, as you might expect, wants to crush the patriarchy. And I have no problem with any of that. I'm all for all that.
Yeah.
It features Bale and Buckley are dead on combustible chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Buckley is fantastic at going back and forth between the two personas in her head.
Sure.
But it never comes together. It's incoherent at points. It lacks focus. I would have really loved to have given this film a nice grade, but I couldn't because I left the theater exhausted from frustration last night. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's stylish looking. It's got some great moments. It's got those great performances, but like I said, in all sincerity, this is one of those films I could see being a Rocky Horror of 20 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could turn out being one of those cult films, which isn't necessarily bad. For the here and now, and it's going to be divisive. From what I've seen on Rotten Tomatoes, the reviews are all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of, the trailers, sort of make it seem like a Bonnie and Clyde almost situation.
It does. It's a bait and switch. I went in. Look, I did my research based on that, and I went in and I was going to start off my lead with something about Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde, and because that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And then when I left the movie, I'm like, well, got to toss that.
Yeah. Do you think that would have been a more interesting thread to kind of unravel there, as opposed to maybe what actually goes on, like you said, with the incoherence?
Not necessarily, because if it had been more focused, the story is compelling, period. But if she can focus it more, she's got a damn good movie.
Yeah.
And it just feels off.
Yeah. Well, you appreciate the willingness to take a swing and not play it safe. And I think that that will probably serve Gyllenhaal well as a director. Now, I will say this: the best thing that will happen for her is if this movie is a hit, because Warner Brothers won't care if the movie is, like you said, divisive, as long as the audiences come out to it. But it might be a little bit of a difficult proposition with like an $80+ million budget. Now, obviously, Warner Brothers is going through a lot of stuff, right now, and they've had some success. Wuthering Heights has made a lot of money, and probably reaffirmed their willingness to spend on projects up until this merger goes through. But I think we'll see. Movie making these days is hard because you like the idea of having the big names behind it, and not that Maggie Gyllenhaal is a huge name, to everybody in the public eye, but certainly for cinephiles she is. And then being able to get Christian Bale, who had been on a little bit of a hiatus, and of course Jesse Buckley coming off of an Oscar nomination and likely win, it kind of really helps maybe raise some of the bar here for this movie. And it looks interesting. Unless you're Frankensteined out, I guess maybe you might have some interest in it. And it's a spring play where it's not really going up against a lot of competition against itself, as opposed to last fall, if it had been in the same era of release with Frankenstein the movie with Del Toro, even though that wasn't theatrical. But you were going up against a lot of awards players at that point. So maybe the spring release will help the box office. Obviously, you're going up against Hoppers, but you've got two totally different audiences going to the theater this weekend to see one or the other. So I'll be interested to see if this movie can be profitable for Warner Brothers.
If the budget is only 80 million, I'd be shocked that it doesn't make its money back and then some.
Okay.
It's assured a profit. I mean, it's going to find its audience. There's going to be a sense of curiosity out there.
Sure.
And I don't begrudge it that. It's just, for me, it didn't work completely. And you know what? I'll say it this way. Go see it and judge for yourself. That's what you should do with every movie.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I know that there's also, we're always thankful for theatrical releases, but I know we also have some streaming and some TV that you've been catching up on. What have you seen lately here that people should check out?
DTF St. Louis. They build this thing as a dark comedy, and it really, really walks the line.
Yeah.
Between comedy and drama. It's a love triangle, oddly enough. And the weird part is it stars Jason Bateman, who really shows you what kind of range he has, because
he's been doing that a lot lately. He's really changed it up a little bit these last few years.
Yeah, he's not Mr. Smarm and Charm here. He's an insecure St. Louis weatherman who befriends a coworker and his wife. And it's quite clear that his wife is attracted to him and vice versa. Now, it becomes a love triangle because he eventually starts an affair with her. All the while, she's encouraging him to grow closer to her husband, played by
David Harbour.
Tip of my tongue, Stranger Things.
Yeah. Wife
is played by Linda Cardellini of Scooby-Doo fame and other things. Yeah. Freaks and Geeks. And it becomes this odd love triangle where you wonder who's in love with whom. Now, their relationship, the guy's relationship, isn't sexual. The wife and Bateman's character, that relationship is sexual. But, it's told from different perspectives. It kind of takes, they gave me 4 episodes. It took me 2.5 to really get into it. So stick it out. It's well acted. It's compelling. The performances are great. And it explores that suburban angst that a lot of people tend to undergo when they reach a certain age. Yeah. At any rate, check it out. And it's HBO. It's the kind of thing you expect from HBO.
Right. Yeah. Sort of that legacy. They're always going to have a good Sunday night, even if it's not a multi-season caliber show. Well, for now. What do you make of that? Well, I guess while we've talked about Warner Brother movies and HBO, what did you make of the big swerve? Is it really a swerve when they were offering more money to go to Paramount as opposed to Netflix? But what do you sort of make of it? We've seen some of the ideas that maybe they'd have like a 45 day theatrical window. The idea would be each studio would produce 15 movies a year, which seems like a good thing. But I mean, what do you think of this?
We see that's my problem, and I've been going back and forth with certain idiots in my life because that's a micro perspective for people who like entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to make me get political because this isn't about merely entertainment. People want to say content. Well, screw content. Because with this acquisition, the Ellison family gains control of CNN.
Right.
And you see what the Ellisons have done with Paramount and CBS News.
Right.
And I fear for that kind of media concentration with respect to news outlets in the First Amendment and outlets willingly muting themselves or censoring themselves to cater to whatever administration may be in power. And I'm basically muting my But so I don't give a damn about the entertainment here. What do I make of it? What do I make of it? Probably that down the line, Paramount is looking at financial issues because I think they're over leveraged.
It was like a $79 billion debt or something. Like that's a lot of money to throw at there.
And that's why Netflix pulled out. It's like, you know what? At the right price, sure, we'll do this. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I understand that. And that's why they pulled out. It's like, nah, not worth it. See ya. Yeah. And so that's what I make of that. And I don't like getting political because I don't think anybody really needs to know my views.
Right. No, I get that. It was an interesting swerve. My hope would have been that they would have just decided, nah, we're doing well. We don't need to sell. But, I think we all kind of figured even after a very good 2025 of profitable films, they were going to move on. And it's unfortunate because you're monopolizing, like you said, more than just the movie aspect and entertainment. You're monopolizing the news in the First Amendment to a degree. And that's what's probably something that people aren't really thinking about because they're thinking, oh, well, now that means James Gunn might not run DC or something. Like that's not really the big issue here.
No, and it's like I was going back, I prefer watching movies on 4K DVD.
Right.
And the idiots were like, and I'm sorry, if you were worried about physical media going away as opposed to freedom of speech and et cetera, or independent media, you're an idiot. If you were worried about physical media over the big picture here, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
Period. And that's what I heard from a lot of individuals my son's age. Oh, they're gonna Netflix will take away physical media, blah 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 blah. Hey, it's all gonna go to streaming, blah blah blah. You know what? As much as I love physical media, I love independent news sources more.
Right.
So screw your physical media. That comes from somebody who has 900 movies on physical media. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. See, well, I didn't mean to rile up the hornet's nest, but maybe we can end here with something a little bit lighter and maybe a little bit more aggressive too. Still, is Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. I know that this is I will say this. I think that it's really cool that you can have like the Monsterverse sort of in the TV streaming space. But I wonder, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, like, are you kind of underselling it by not having like King Kong or Godzilla's name in that title to like really hook people?
You know, here's the hook with this series, and it's a cheese fest. I mean,
Yeah,
let's face it, the last Kong and Godzilla movies were cheese fests. I mean, the series ties into those movies too. Well, it ties more into the last Godzilla movie than anything. And underselling, no, because what they do and what they it's like watching a serialized version of Jaws. Because you're anticipating the return of Kong, or you're anticipating the return of Godzilla. And in a lot of episodes, they are nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
And you want it. You want to see Godzilla or Kong come in and just kick monster butt.
Right.
But they're gonna make you wait for that payoff, and it's well worth it. And
Okay.
like I said, it's a cheese fest. If you have no soul if you don't enjoy this series, you don't.
Well, I've liked what they've done. I'm a big fan of the Peter Jackson Godzilla,
That's a classic.
or not Godzilla. I'm sorry, King Kong. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said.
Underappreciated classic.
Very not that it's better than the original, but honestly, there was a lot more emotional payoff in Peter Jackson's King Kong than there was in the 33 version, which, at that time it wasn't really meant for that. But there was a lot of emotional payoff and, interplay between Naomi Watts' character and King Kong that really kind of made you care a little bit more about the movie, what was happening. But, when they kind of rebooted this, I really like the idea of the direction they went in, which was like, get Samuel L. Jackson to yell and scream, get King Kong to do some like B-movie monster stuff and just have like fun with it. And it's like, I think they found a good tone for what this version of King Kong is, and maybe a little bit of splicing in with Godzilla. I know the Godzilla reboots were a little bit more, serious and grounded, but the King Kong stuff was so fun and they knew what they had and they weren't trying to be something they weren't. And I think that's what made it work so well for me.
Oh, I agree, but this series is far more serious than King Kong was.
Right.
It's borderline soap opera to a certain degree, with time jumps and everything, and it's just, again, cheese fest. It's sci-fi cheese, and I'll bite off more than my share of a slice.
Hey, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's a nice palate cleanser. It's just, you just like those kind of fun rides where you don't have to think so much, and you can just kind of look at the pretty pictures and the action or whatever may happen and just kind of dive into the melodrama, if you will.
Exactly. And there's plenty of it.
Anything else that you've been watching or caught up on over the last few weeks?
I'm taking a new tack with something in that it's difficult to ignore network television series if they're going to hit streaming the next day. There was a time that they'd hit streaming a week later. Now it's next day. So I checked out The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dink. Dink with Tracy Morgan, who you talk about underappreciated.
I like Tracy Morgan in very small spurts, especially though in SNL, but I don't know that I love Tracy Morgan outside of SNL.
He's great in this series though.
Okay.
And it's weird because he's got chemistry with Daniel Radcliffe, which you never, ever expect these two to have.
Right.
Ever. And, they basically play two characters who need one another.
Mm-hmm.
Reggie is a disgraced former football player who got caught through his own stupidity betting on games before it was cool.
Right.
He hires Radcliffe's character, a a documentary filmmaker who had a shot to make a Marvel movie and failed miserably, so that he's the laughing stock of Hollywood. He hires him to make a Reggie Dinkins documentary, and it's about it turns into something where Reggie's basically a recluse because of his shame, and the filmmaker is enduring a different kind of isolation because of his failure. And it's them pushing one another.
Yeah.
A great comedic effect. And it's half hour long. You sit back, you enjoy, and go for the ride. There's a small dose of Tracy Morgan for you right there. 22 minutes every week.
Yeah. I maybe it's just the way the trailers have, because he's got a very distinct voice.
Oh yeah.
And he's also got a very distinct cadence to that voice that makes him sound like he's not real, or like it's like he's over the top to the nth degree all the time, every time. And that's maybe why I think he worked so well on Saturday Night Live, because you kind of play larger than life characters on Saturday Night Live, because it's not always grounded in realism. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate Tracy Morgan by any means. I just, in small doses, he's really fun, but after a while, he kind of runs its course for me.
Oh, I understand that perfectly, but still, that voice is so unique that
it is, yes,
that you want to make fun of it. And one of the most hilarious moments in the SNL special from last year was Eddie Murphy doing a dead-on Tracy Morgan.
Eddie Murphy did a spot-on Tracy Morgan.
Yeah,
I can't remember what he said, but it was one of the funniest things I had seen on that. Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, his Tracy Morgan was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you're watching, or anything that you have coming up here in the next week? I know next week we'll probably talk a little Oscars, maybe do some predictions there. But
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was the Oscar race for Best Actor just thrown into unpredictable hell this past week, man?
Yeah. That was, I mean, hey, I'm all for it, except for my predictions. I don't like when my predictions have to be in on the drama, but I'm all for the drama of not knowing who's going to win. I think there's a few races like that. I still wonder, supporting actor is still like, because the more I thought about it early on, I was like all in on Sean Penn because he was great, but then I'm thinking, well, if he wins, that'd be his third Oscar, and there aren't too many people that have 3 Oscars to their name. So you wonder if the Academy will be like, well, yeah, but here's this person.
So I got a question for you. Who won Best Actress at the Actor Awards? Do you know? I didn't watch them.
Oh, let me look that up really quick. It wasn't Jessie Buckley, was it?
I don't know.
Let me see here.
Oh,
yeah, Jessie Buckley won. Sean Penn won.
And that's the actors are the biggest. SAG is the biggest division of the Academy.
Right.
So that kind of portends what could happen. It's going to depend on the rest of the Academy at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, I mean, yeah, you're right. That category, everybody just assumed, even if it wasn't Chalamet, people kind of assumed it'd be DiCaprio even, and not really Michael B. Jordan. He's kind of sitting in the weeds here, and then all of a sudden he just like ambushes everybody and wins one of the biggest precursors you can win in that category. So I mean, I still feel like Chalamet might have it, but man, it's going to be maybe closer than you'd think.
And see, I don't think Oscar voting ends until tomorrow.
Really? Okay. Well, that might
check that. I mean, because that's not. With all due respect, I mean, people can bitch about it.
Actually, that says that final voting was. No, this is weird because it got delayed.
No, it ends on the 5th.
Okay.
But with all due respect, if Michael B. Jordan wins, he deserves it.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, I don't think there is between those three people. I don't think there is a bad way to go if you're going DiCaprio, Chalamet, or Michael B. Jordan. I mean, I don't know that I would have a preference other than I would say that I think DiCaprio probably gave one of his better performances since Wolf of Wall Street. Chalamet is one of those we've talked about quite a bit as sort of that young gun. He's going to be there year in and year out, most likely, depending on the projects he picks. But then you're also kind of like, is the Academy, because he won the actor award, or I guess it would have been the SAG award last year for what was the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. So he won, but then he lost the Oscar. So I wonder if that could happen with Michael B. Jordan this year, where he wins the actor award and maybe just doesn't have enough to clear the hurdles there for. But then again, the Academy clearly liked Sinners because they gave it a historic number of Oscar nominations. So I think it's pretty clear that the Academy supports that movie. And in turn, you got to kind of support Michael B. Jordan, who played two roles in that movie. So, I think it could go either way now. It's probably a little bit less likely to go Chalamet, but I feel like, the Academy, the SAG branch being able to get a lot of those votes in are probably going to help. But you also don't know, too. Like sometimes, you might just say, well, for the actor award, we're going to give it to Michael B. Jordan, but when I vote for the Oscars, I'm going to vote for someone else or what. Not that that's likely, but it's possible that you might say like, well, this award is specifically for this, and this award is the top prize. So maybe I have different feelings about the Oscar versus the actor award or whatever it may be, like you would see with the BAFTAs or the Golden Globes, where all hell can break loose half the time. So I don't know. It's a guarantee now, but Michael B. Jordan, though, I mean, he might be getting some betting lines on him because of this. And like you said, with the voting not ending until tomorrow, that's fresh in everybody's mind that this guy just won the actor award and now he's going up for best actor. So why not carry that over maybe if you're a voter?
Why not? And like I said, I'll scream in my family room if he does.
Yeah, I mean, it would be extremely well deserved. I think it would be well deserved from either actor, even DiCaprio, if you want to throw him into that pool. Although I think at this point he's probably a long shot. But I mean, whether you go Chalamet or Jordan, I think they're both equally deserving of an award. I mean, you could flip a coin for me, in my opinion, because I love Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. I thought he was fantastic. But then I also thought, Chalamet had just this, kinetic energy on screen for Marty Supreme that really kind of carried that film time and time again. But then again, Michael B. Jordan carried Sinners in a dual role that really were different. It wasn't a gimmick. I know we talked about that before too. So it is a real crapshoot now with this little change of pace here at the very end.
And see, and Chalamet has taken some criticism for being Oscar thirsty or Oscar hungry.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
We'll see what.
And you wonder, like we've talked about him as sort of like the next DiCaprio in a way. And you wonder if the Academy, because he is, Oscar thirsty, if the Academy likes him or if they kind of don't. Like, I think everybody would agree that DiCaprio is among the greats of his generation, but he only has the one Oscar win. And a lot of people say, well, he's always good enough to be nominated, but we don't really like him enough to vote to have him win this statue. And I wonder if that might be the case for Chalamet, where his time will come and everybody knows it, but you got to earn it a little bit more, or we don't really love you as a person outside of the acting world. Who knows? Whatever it may be, there's always going to be those bit of biases that people will have. And, you have a movie with Sinners that is probably the only movie that could compete for one battle after another for Best Picture. So you do wonder elevates everybody in those categories that Sinners is in to maybe move up a notch or two, and if that moves up a notch from 2 to 1, then they win. So it's very much possible now that Michael B. Jordan could easily win now that he's won, the biggest precursor out there.
Well, see, what I got to wonder, because Sinners won the casting award too. Now, I have to imagine that's the equivalent of Best Picture.
More or less, yeah. I mean, that's more or less that is, yeah.
So, and I know there's a casting award in the Oscars for the first time this year.
Yeah.
But does that tilt a few votes in favor of Sinners for Best Picture? Could there be an upset brewing there? From what perception has been since
it's hard to imagine calling it an upset when Sinners literally has the most Oscar nominations of all time. But it's true though. Yeah. It's true though, because it is sort of like, it's one of those movies where if it's not number 1, it's like number 2 in every category. It's not like, oh, well, that's like number 5 or 6 or 7 on Best Picture list. That is literally in the top 2 or 3. And honestly, as much as you and I both enjoyed Marty Supreme, it's sort of lost a little bit of that chug down the train tracks a little bit in a lot of ways, in my opinion, outside of the fact that, Chalamet was a likely winner, although not now. And then maybe a screenplay, but I don't even think that at this point, because you've got One Battle After Another and adapted, and you've got Sinners in original, which I would imagine that Sinners will win for original screenplay. So, Marty Supreme might be the movie. At first I thought, could Sinners be the movie that goes 0 for 16 or maybe like 1 for 16 or 2 for 16? Honestly, though, I mean, I'm thinking score, screenplay, maybe Michael B. Jordan, and then you've got some other ancillary categories that I think it will be very competitive in.
I think it's going to get screwed on Best Song by K-Pop Demon Hunters, whatever that is.
It likely will. It likely will not win that category, yeah, but certainly should. And music is so integral to that. That's why I know when we talked about One Battle After Another, I wasn't a huge fan of the score.
The score was great.
I prefer. Well, it grew on me. It shifted a little bit tonally when you got to the meeting between Willa and Lockjaw in the church when they were determining if they were family. No, I don't want to spoil it, but whatever. But I think the score kind of shifted a little bit, and it felt more whimsical almost, or like annoyingly whimsical in the first half. But Ludwig Göransson's score for Sinners was just constantly amazing. That movie is like a music movie, and it felt like from the beginning for me that, how can you not give original score to Sinners when it was so integral to the film?
I will posit you this: how many times was John Williams nominated, and how many times did he win? You're probably looking at the John Williams of this generation.
With Johnny Greenwood?
No, with Ludwig Göransson.
Well, Göransson,
I mean, I know he's won.
He's won. He won for Oppenheimer.
Right. But what I'm saying is he's going to get constantly nominated.
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, yeah.
Like
yeah. But you got to give it to him, right? I mean, at a certain point, especially for like tech categories like that, like, does anybody care that there might be a film composer that wins 12 Oscars? Like, if they're good enough to win 12 Oscars, then give them 12 Oscars. Not that that's going to happen, but, I mean, John Williams has 60-year career worth of scores that, yeah, of course he's going to be nominated dozens of times and only win a few, but I don't know. In this case, why is it bad that, he won a couple of years ago for Oppenheimer, but why not win this year? I mean,
I agree.
If the score fits, you got to give it to him.
But see, my contention is, like, I looked it up. John Williams has won 5 Oscars.
Okay.
Fair. He's been nominated for 49.
Right. Yeah.
And then you look at some of the music that he didn't win for, and you wonder, well, how the hell did that happen? And I think that could happen to Ludwig Göransson. I mean, bottom line, I think it could.
It could.
So,
And he does have a statue, and Johnny Greenwood does not, and he is very beloved by the Academy. So, it's very possible. But Goranson has picked up more of the precursor type awards, and I think he's kind of in the driver's seat. But at this point, I'm kind of all for it. My predictions are not going to be all for the intrigue, but I'm definitely interested to see how some of these categories actually play out.
Here you go. Here you go. John Williams didn't win for the score of Superman, and I would argue that's his freaking masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
True Star Wars.
Yeah.
Superman is his masterpiece. He didn't win for Raiders. Go figure that.
Yeah.
They're just that's why I say Goranson could end up like this. I mean,
yeah,
there are plenty of movies here he should have won for. He did not.
Right.
He didn't win for Close Encounters. And we're talking about films where the music, the score, segments of the score are just iconic.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how anyone watches or remembers that Superman movie without thinking or remembering or humming that opening fanfare.
Right. Yeah.
That what at the time was a revolutionary opening credits scene.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah.
What do I know?
Well, we can talk more next week. Oscars and all things. We can give our final predictions on at least the big 6 categories. Although I guess we could maybe include casting now as a big 7. I think that's. I'm very glad that they added that category. Although I'd still like to see stunt performance added. And my final criticism of the Academy, though, I would prefer that they move the Oscars back to the end of February instead of like the middle of March. It seems like there's been too much time in between when the Oscar nominations were announced to now we've got, they're finally here kind of, but it seems like it's a little bit longer delay that we don't need to drag it on that much.
Here's what I know. I forgot the Oscars were next weekend, primarily because next weekend in Cleveland, Fan Expo is here. I got to write about it, but I start attending on Friday, right? I'll be there Saturday. But my mother's makeup 80th birthday party, she was planning a party for her 80th and ended up having triple bypass surgery instead. The week I got a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
But it's her 80+1 birthday party.
Yeah.
On the Saturday before the Oscars, and I'm just wondering if I'm going to have any energy left because I'm probably going to end up helping to bartend Saturday.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
Busy weekend, but all right. Well, as always, George, we appreciate you stopping by. You can read everything that George writes at beaconjournal.com, including watching his review of Hoppers and all his other reviews and all the other sports and entertainment coverage that he provides. I know it's going to be a lighter week next week, but we will talk Oscars. As always, George, thank you for stopping by, and we will talk. Yep, go ahead.
You asked what I have coming up? New Ryan Gosling movie.
So Project Hail Mary, are you gonna have a review next week or the week after?
I don't know if I'm gonna have a review, but here's the thing. Did you ever go to the Great Lakes Science Center? You ever been
I have been there. Yeah, I've been there before.
IMAX screen, just I won't say wasting. Well, they're actually having the screening for Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
At the Science Center using that screen.
Okay.
So I'm seeing it there. That's what I wanted to share with you because I figured you'd geek out over it.
I will be. I actually, and I might have to do this, although the opening weekend might be a struggle because the tickets are already just flying off the shelves. But the movie theater that Christopher Nolan helped retrofit for 70 millimeter for Oppenheimer will have Project Hail Mary in IMAX 70 millimeter. So I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and pay $35 a ticket to go see Project Hail Mary in IMAX, because that's the first movie they've had in 70 millimeter since Oppenheimer. They have not had other IMAX movies in the 70 millimeter format. So I wonder if they're kind of dusting it off a little bit, as the Odyssey, of course, will probably be in 70 millimeter in July.
Do I dare hope that the Odyssey will be screened there?
That would be fun. Yeah.
So there we go.
I don't know.
I don't know how the local PR agency pulled this one off, but I'm glad they did. It's probably because it's related to space now that I think about it. So,
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good though. I'm glad they're utilizing it. You know, why not utilize that space? You have it, go for it.
Yep.
That'll be a lot of fun. All right. Well, you take care, and we will talk again next week.
All right, sir.